When my son with ADHD was younger and he wasn't getting his way, he would often engage in property destruction. Kids with ADHD have a propensity to get stuck when they're not getting their way. The reason they get stuck is because they struggle with flexibility, which is one of the core executive function skills we find lagging and used inconsistently in kids with ADHD. So when my son wasn't getting his way, things would often start off with him knocking things over the table, threatening to break my things, knocking over the dining room chairs, and so on. And I will tell you, I handled this very poorly because I would consistently give attention and emotional reactivity to these behaviors, which just caused them to continue. What I'm about to share with you is going to help you significantly reduce or end property destruction. And I wish I knew this when my son was younger, because it would have saved me a lot of time and a lot of stress and would have kept a lot of things from probably being broken. Property destruction is a form of severe tyrannical behavior. Severe tyrannical behavior is very common with kids with ADHD. It's a way for them to exert control when they're not getting their way. Research has even shown that severe tyrannical behaviors are much more common in kids with ADHD than kids without ADHD, which absolutely makes sense. Let's first talk about what does not work to stop property destruction. Number one is talk therapy. Talk therapy, play therapy, even cognitive behavior therapy are not evidence-based recommended treatments for children with ADHD, which is why they are not recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. The American Academy of Pediatrics evidence-based treatment recommendation for children with ADHD 6 and up is parent training in conjunction with medication management. I provide ADHD-specific parent training through the ADHD Dude membership site, and Scaffolding Better Behavior is actually the first ever parent behavior training program designed specifically for parents of kids with ADHD. Number two, playing armchair therapist, which is when you start asking a lot of why questions when your child is emotionally dysregulated, or asking things like, how does that make you feel? Often, parents of kids with ADHD unintentionally escalate their child because they are talking to them so much as they are emotionally dysregulated, and they are getting them more worked up because they won't stop talking. On top of that, they are reinforcing the effectiveness of these behaviors through giving it their undivided attention and emotional reactivity. That's exactly what I used to do. Number three, I want to explain that there's a great deal of messaging on neurodiverse parenting social media right now that is not evidence-based, and it's telling parents when your child is exhibiting poor behaviors at home, they are, quote, connection seeking, and that is the time to start being empathetic with them and trying to connect with them. That contradicts all the clinical literature on this topic. The clinical literature shows is when you reinforce negative behaviors with attention, you cause them to continue or get worse. So when your child is threatening or engaging in property destruction, that is not connection-seeking behavior. They are exhibiting that because they are stuck and not getting their way, and that is not the time to start being overly empathetic or trying to connect with them. So now that you know what doesn't work, I'm going to give you an overview of what I teach to significantly reduce or stop property destruction. Number one, as I just mentioned before, do not give attention or emotional reactivity to these behaviors because that reinforces these behaviors. That does not mean that you need to ignore your child. It means you do not give attention to those specific behaviors. So for example, if your child starts saying to you, give me more video game time or I'm going to knock this over, don't respond to it. Or if they knock over a chair like my son used to do, don't respond to it at all. Don't look at them. Don't acknowledge it. They need to learn that these behaviors are not going to elicit attention or an emotional reaction from you. Number two is we enlist supporters. Supporters are people who your child respects who can reach out to them when they're struggling. Supporters can be a grandparent, aunt, uncle, family friend, whoever. Supporters don't need to be local. They can be anywhere. They just need to reach out to your child when they're beginning to struggle or after the incident has occurred. A supporter just offers their unconditional support. They do not lecture, they don't shame, they don't play armchair therapist. They just say, hey Ryan, I heard you're having a hard time treating your house with respect right now. What can I do to help you? Often, children with ADHD want to keep severe tyrannical behaviors a family secret. They do not want people outside of the family knowing about these behaviors because they would feel ashamed about them. When we enlist supporters, we are letting the child know that these behaviors are no longer going to be kept a family secret, and these people who love you and care about you are going to reach out when you're struggling because they want to help you. Your child may not respond well to knowing that people who they respect are going to know about their severe tyrannical behaviors, and that's what we want. The actual term for this is constructive shame. Constructive shame means if I treated you badly and then I feel guilty about it inside, well, I should feel guilty because I did something wrong and I should make amends to you. So think of constructive shame like an internal moral compass. That is different than destructive shame. Destructive shame doesn't help anybody, whereas constructive shame does, because it helps us to understand that our behavior was wrong and we need to make amends to those who we hurt. I do want to tell you, when I've taught families this protocol before and they have implemented it and they get to this part of enlisting supporters and they let the child know that they're enlisting supporters, sometimes a child will use emotional manipulation and say things like, if you let Uncle Bob know, I will never speak to you again. The reason the child is doing that is because, again, they don't want people outside the family knowing about their destructive behavior. They want it to be kept a family secret. And if you succumb to their emotional manipulation when they say things like that, you are sending them the message that protecting your feelings is more important to me than teaching you right from wrong. Number 2 is what we call taking a firm stance and resisting the behavior. Often we forget that just letting our child know that we don't approve of something or we won't accept something is really powerful. So let me give you an example. Let's say your child says to you, give me my phone back or I'm going to smash this picture and break the frame into a million pieces. How we respond to that is just by saying, I don't accept that. Now you might be thinking, well, why would I say that? Because that's not changing anything. Because when you let your child know that you don't approve of something, that sends them a powerful message. There doesn't need to be any discussion beyond that. Just say, I won't accept that. Next is presenting the child with an announcement. An announcement is a letter we write and read to the child, letting them know what we will be changing in response to their destructive behavior. So in this announcement letter, we are not issuing any ultimatums. We are not telling the child what they need to change. Rather, what we are doing is owning and acknowledging that we have been parenting in some ways that have not been helpful to them, and we are going to make changes in response to their behavior because we love them and we want them to be successful. In the downloadable section of the ADHD Dude membership site, you can see a sample of this announcement letter for property destruction, which you can download. If you're wondering, what do I do if my child refuses to listen to me when I present this announcement letter? Or what if they rip it up? That's okay. We can leave a copy on their bed, one on the refrigerator. We leave as many copies around the house as necessary. And even if they say, I'm not reading it, they still understand that you are making a change here. And the last part of this is creating daily expectations for your child to earn things that are important to them. Often in families of kids with ADHD, I see what I call high giving, low expectations, where parents just give everything to the child and expect nothing in return except for maybe academic performance. So what I teach parents is we have daily expectations in place that we can split up between behavioral expectations and helping around the house in order for the child to earn the things that we provide to them, like phones, video games, and so on. Kids with ADHD need to feel useful at home. They need to have a sense of purpose. I can't tell you how many times I've seen in families where high giving, low expectations is the norm, that the child exhibits this entitled, selfish behavior and immature behavior at home that is not exhibited anywhere else. When parents start implementing daily expectations and helping the child feel useful, that changes the behavior. It doesn't mean your child's going to like helping around the house. It doesn't mean that they're going to like having these behavioral expectations in place for earning the things they want, but it will be helpful. If you're ready to implement changes in your home to help your child be successful, please check out the ADHD Dude membership site, as well as the behavior playlist at the ADHD Dude YouTube channel, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.